And welcome once again to our internet congregation. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for checking in. This is, as always, Hill Country Bible Church on the north side of the sprawling metropolis of Canyon Lake, Texas. I'm sure you've heard of it. You may even live here. If you live in the area, we'd be happy to have you, happy to see you in person, meet you. Our activities begin on Sunday morning, 9 o'clock with full breakfast. And then study at 9:30. We're right in the middle of the book of, we're not even in the middle yet of the book of Revelation, which is pretty exciting studies. And then at 10:30 is worship, and at 6 o'clock on Sunday evening is prayer. So we'd love to have you come our way. Will you turn, please, to the little book of 1 Timothy, chapter 3 and verse 16. I want to speak to you this morning on my favorite subject, Jesus Christ. I've got no quantum physics today. No God in quantum physics. No Christ and the dual nature of light. No science in the Bible. Nothing. Except the perfections of Jesus the Christ. I want to talk to you about the perfections of Jesus Christ. 1 Timothy 3 and verse 16. Will you stand, please, for the reading of God's sacred word? 1 Timothy 3:16. Without controversy, beyond argumentation, it says, Great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifest in the flesh. We can stop right there. Great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifest in the flesh. That is the incarnation of God in the person of Jesus the Christ. Let us pray. And now, Lord, I need all the help I can get this morning. I am physically weak. Help me not to have to sit down in the middle of this sermon. Keep me standing like a grown-up man. And I pray that you touch me and anoint me. I don't deserve it, but I ask for your help, your assistance. I want to glorify you today, Lord. I want to lift up your name. So give me the ability to do that. May we be thrilled and chilled and excited about the person of Christ as we examine him. In his name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Jesus Christ. Not Socrates, not Plato, not Aristotle, not Buddha, not Muhammad, not George Washington, not Abraham Lincoln, not even Donald Trump. I know some of you are going to get all upset about that. Not even Trump. Jesus Christ is the single most influential human being ever to live. And as much as I appreciate, and by the way, we need to be praying for this situation that's over there. I don't know of another American president who would have had the guts to do what Trump did. And we are doing the heavy lifting for the entire rest of the world in stopping the insane mullahs who would want to wipe out everybody. They've already said, they've chanted hundreds of times, death to Israel, death to the United States. And so I think we put them out of business with two, not one, but two, 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs.
6.
Wow. And each plane carries 2. And
6 bombs.
Oh, okay, well, however, 6 bombs. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. A pox on me. So hopefully their nuclear capabilities have been obliterated. Okay, hopefully. And that's wonderful, and I thank God for a president who's got a backbone, who's got some guts, right? I voted for him. There's some things I don't like about him. He's a narcissist. He's egotistical. He's arrogant. Well, maybe that's the kind of guy we need right now. But way far and away above him, the most influential, earth-shaking person in all of human history is Jesus Christ. Jesus the divine Christ. Not Jesus the teacher, not Jesus the moral example, not Jesus the lily of the valley and all that, sweet Jesus, meek and mild, but Jesus Christ, the theanthropic Christ. You say, I don't know that word. Learn a new word. Theanthropic. Theos, anthropos, put them together. The theanthropic Christ, the one who is God and man, divinity and humanity in one person. That's Jesus Christ. Do you understand that this one man has called forth more love, admiration, devotion, and also at the same time more hate and contempt and animosity than anyone in the entire history of humankind? Wow. Born in a backwater, militarily occupied nation. Didn't get to go to a swanky university like Vanderbilt. Why am I not better than I am? So I have all this education. Answer, I had to throw away half of it. I had to unlearn a lot of stuff I was taught. He didn't have to put up with that. He was not born into the trappings of wealth or power. He never wrote a book. And yet the books that have been written by him would fill this room 10 times over. I have an entire section of books in my library. I have a big library. I got more books than all y'all put together, except for Aunt Hagen. Aunt Hagen's got more books than the New York Jets, whatever. I got a whole section, 30 or 40 books on one subject. It's called Christology, the person and the work of Jesus Christ. 30 or 40 books. He never wrote a book. He never held public office. He never even got to the office of dog catcher. Wasn't a dog catcher, nothing higher. Never traveled more than a couple 100 miles from the place he was born. Didn't like to travel. And yet, over the centuries, his influence, get this, latch onto it. His influence has touched and influenced and enriched everything. Everything, every area of human endeavor, he touched it. Spirituality, religion, theology, philosophy, law, politics, government, ethics, morality, psychology, art, music, science, and believe it or not, he's even influenced the way we build buildings, architecture. Western civilization, that's Europe, Great Britain, and us, has been by and large fashioned by Jesus the Christ. So, you may be an atheist. We lost our singing friend, by the way. He's gone. Thus, to be a well-educated person, maybe an atheist, maybe totally unbeliever, you would have to give careful attention to this all-influential person. Why has Jesus Christ had the effect that he has had? The answer can come only from looking at his life, his words, the things that he said, the things that he stood for, his actions, what he did not do. And I can tell by the way I'm going with this message that I will not get through with it today, which is okay. There's always next Sunday. Right? Now we're going to look at several themes that run through the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, with the informed assumption. It's okay to make an assumption if it's based on at least some kind of facts. The informed assumption that the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are genuine and that they are true to history and true to fact. And I can make that assumption because all the other alternatives have proven to be wrong, to be false, misleading. For example, there is no support for the opinion that the Christ story was stolen and pirated from pre-Christian Egyptian mythology. Doesn't fit. There is no support for the movement called the Quest for the Historical Jesus, which is in its third rebirth. It's been died, twice brought back, which attempted to discredit his claim to divinity. No support for that movement, the quest. There is no support for the form criticism of Rudolf Bultmann. You probably never heard of that, but it was a serious threat and remains such to the integrity of the Bible, the New Testament. Form criticism of Bultmann. There is no support for the opinions of the vaunted Jesus Seminar. There is no support for the claim that primitive Christianity was highly pluralistic and was to be identified with Neoplatonism or Gnosticism. And so I approach Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John with the utmost confidence in their literary integrity and their factual trustworthiness. You can trust Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Now, when we read the four Gospels, what do we learn about Jesus, this all-influential person? Oh, I hope you can get into this. I'm trying to throw it at you in an understandable way. I'm not dumbing it down. I don't have to dumb down stuff because y'all are not dumb. I'll tell you who's dumb. I'm the dumbest guy in this room. You said, well, you got the doctorate from Vanderbilt University. Yeah, I had to sweat though, man. I had to sweat every B. I never made an A. Couldn't make an A. I had to sweat those grades. I have to read a book 2 or 3 times to get the gist of it. I'm not smart. I am not smart. I just read a lot. And if you read as much as I do, you'd be a lot smarter than me. So I'm not dumbing anything down. I'm just trying to communicate. And I want you to pick up on the glories, the wonders, and by the way, of the person of Christ. And by the way, I mentioned this last week. Jesus Christ is Lord of Canyon Lake. Jesus Christ is Lord of Canyon Lake. Jesus Christ is Lord of Canyon Lake. Don't forget it. And we're going to take this place back. We're going to take this place back. By the grace of God, this Friday night thing is going to grow and grow and grow. And we're going to get the drug users, more and more of them in here. And they're going to be set free. And we've seen it before, we will see it again. The first time it happened, I nearly fainted. A young man, 29 years old, walked in. I asked him to introduce himself. He said, I'm Kenneth Smith, and I'm a heroin addict, and I've come to get set free by Jesus Christ. I said, you came to the right place, Bubba. And he did set him free. He got off of heroin that morning. And it happened in this little out-of-the-way church. Wow. I want to see something like that happen every Sunday. So first of all, let us consider the character of Jesus Christ. One striking feature of the four Gospels is how they give us no description of Jesus' physical appearance. We don't know if he was tall, dark, and handsome, Hollywood material, or he was short and fat and ugly. There is a hint in the Old Testament typology, in the book of Exodus. There's a hint that he was not tall, dark, handsome Hollywood. That he was a very plain, ordinary-looking man. I like that. I like that. He might even be almost as ugly as me. Nobody said anything. You just accepted that. I'm ugly as homemade soap. You agree? No, I agree. We're not told if he was handsome. The indications are that he was a very plain, ordinary-looking man. And here, all the emphasis is, if we could echo the wonderful statement of Martin Luther King Jr., the emphasis is not on the color of his skin, although he was dark. He was not a blue-eyed blonde. He was not, I hate to tell you this, but he was not an American. How could that be? Well, he was. The emphasis is not on the color of his skin, but on the content of his character. And by the way, he's sitting on the throne of the universe, and it is not draped in red, white, and blue. I hate to tell you that. And when he returns, he's not going to come flying in on Air Force One. There are going to be some Christians who, you're just anti-American. No, I'm not. I'm just being realistic. Jesus Christ is the cosmic Christ. He's the Christ of Canyon Lake. He's the Christ of the United States, Mexico, and Iran. He is the rightful Lord of Iran and Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and Tajikistan and Germany and all the countries of Europe and Latin America. He is the rightful Lord of this world. Right? And his character was amazing. Of importance to readers over the centuries has been the amazing phenomenon, the conjunction of character opposites, polar opposites that come together in Jesus Christ. In him we see qualities and virtues that we would normally consider to be totally incompatible in the same personality. We would never think they could be combined, but because they are combined in him, they have been described by many, many people as beautiful. Beautiful, not in a feminine. Jesus was not he wasn't weak and effeminate. He wasn't that way. Okay. He was a rough and tough guy. You remember when he ran the money changers out of the temple? They were jumping all over themselves trying to get away from the fire. He whipped them, ran them out. Tough guy. Jesus could be a tough guy when he needed to be a tough guy. And he could wrap little children in his arms and weep over them. He wept over his friend dead Lazarus. Okay, so he was, there's a combination right there. For example, Jesus combines high majesty with deep humility. He joins the strongest commitment to justice with astonishing mercy and grace. We are surprised to see tenderness without weakness, boldness without harshness, humility without uncertainty. And there are his unbending convictions, but his complete approachability, his insistence on truth, but always bathed in love, his power without insensitivity. He never steamrolled anybody, but he was all powerful. His integrity without rigidity, and his passion without prejudice. Now, the religiously respectable people of Jesus' day refused to associate with certain people who were considered to be sinners. The IRS agents, the equivalent thereof, the tax collectors, right? Jesus chose, they're called publicans. Jesus chose one of them. They were traitors to Israel. Okay? They sold themselves into bondage to Rome. Matthew was a publican. He was a tax collector. He was an IRS agent. And the other Jews hated his guts. And Jesus chose him to be one of his inner circle. And see, people of the other sinners were tax collectors and prostitutes. Tax collectors and hookers. Oh, no, don't mess with them. For fear of becoming contaminated by them. But Jesus turned the dominant social pattern on its head. He just flipped it. He freely socialized with the moral and social outcasts of the day. He did not fear that they would contaminate him, but rather he expected that his love, his wholesome love, would change them. And that's exactly what happened over and over and over again. His character was beautiful. His character was wonderful. That's the first amazing thing about Jesus Christ. He was tough, but he was tender at the same time. Second amazing feature of Jesus' life is his wisdom and his absolute freedom. Every person has a particular personality default mode. Some of us are introverts. I'll never forget when first Sunday I ever served in a church as pastor, Brunswick Presbyterian Church. An old boy named Ryland Bledsoe came up to me, gave me his business card. He said, "I'll help you do anything. I'll go visiting with you, knocking on doors. You get a flat tire in the car, call me. I'll be here to put the spare on for you. Anything break down in the house, I'll fix it. I'll do anything I can to help you. Just don't ever call on me to pray in public. I said, why not? I just freeze up and can't think of anything to say. I said, I'll try to remember that. And I did. I never called on him to pray. He was a good old boy. But he said, he was an introvert, okay? That's the way some people are. That is their default mode. Some of us are extroverts. Some of us hardly ever shut up. I'm not naming any names. Mercy, why are you laughing?
What's it mean?
I wasn't going to name your name. You're not the only one. You got 2 or 3 blabbermouths. I'd rather have blabbermouths than people who never say a word and you wonder, what are they up to? You know, what are they up to? Some are outspoken, others are soft-spoken. Some are quick to lead, others wait for the crowd. They wait for a consensus. Some are rational, some are intuitive. They just go fly by the seat of their pants. Now, this leaves us open and vulnerable because we tend to respond with our temperaments, our feelings, the way we are, whether or not the situation calls for it. An example would be that in a situation that requires us to speak out, those of us who are soft-spoken will miss opportunity after opportunity. I like the way Bill O'Reilly starts his podcast or whatever it is on the internet. This is Bill O'Reilly, welcome to the No Spin Zone, stand up for your country. He says that every time. Stand up for your country. Sometimes we are tough when we ought to be tender. I'll never forget. We were living in Arkansas. Ottilie was 2.5 years old, maybe. And Jane was talking on the phone long distance to her sister. It was before cell phones. And Ottilie actually had chewing gum or bubble gum, and she was getting a strip of it over the end of her tongue and sticking her tongue out. And it looked like a red rubber band. And I'm thinking she's going to choke on that rubber band and die right in front of me. So I said, no, honey, no. And I reached into her mouth and I was going to get that. She started yelling, pulling away from me. I said, don't you pull away from your daddy now, come on. I'm trying to save your life. And I pulled out a big fistful of gooey chewing gum. And she was crying. And I said, oh, Daddy's sorry. Daddy thought you had a rubber band. Daddy thought you were going to kill yourself. I got rid of the chewing gum in the trash. I said, please forgive Daddy. Will you forgive? And this is when she beamed forgiveness to me. It'd be great if God could do it this way, but he can't. She went, forgive. And I just felt it go all over me. Little 2.5-year-old darling, forgive. That's good if you can do it. So sometimes, I was tough. I was hard when I should not have been. And then sometimes we're soft when we ought to be tough. But it is radically different with Jesus Christ. I want you to notice this. In the 4 Gospels, he appears as the most versatile man and the wisest man ever to live. There's never a false step, never a wrong note. If you had really been listening to me picking around on a guitar this morning, you would have realized that I hit a couple of notes that were not in part of the chord that Scotty and Carolyn were playing on the instruments. They were playing maybe a C and I hit a D or a B, natural B or something, or an A. I hit a couple of sour. How many heard the sour notes? You did?
I did.
Put your hand down.
Well, we were singing, trying to. Yeah.
Well, it's right. Never a false step. Jesus never hit a sour note. He never had to backpedal. He never had to retract anything he ever said. He never had to say, I misspoke. That means he could never make it in Washington, inside the Beltway. He never had to say, oops, sorry about that. We never see him being strong when he should be tender, or tender when he should be strong. Never, ever, ever. He is blunt. He is confrontational with Nicodemus, who was a prominent religious leader in John chapter 3. Nicodemus comes to him and says, thou art wise, you're a prophet, you're way up there. Nobody can have this wisdom except you walk with God. And I'm a big shot, and I recognize another big shot. And Jesus just cut him down. He said, except a man be born again, he cannot even see the kingdom of God. You got to go back and start over from the beginning. All of your religion, your position, your power, your money ain't gonna cut it for you, Bubba. You got to start from the ground up. And Nicodemus probably didn't like that. But then Jesus approaches the two sisters, Mary and Martha, in a different way. He approaches the truth and love. They are both grieving over the death of their brother Lazarus, and they're both blaming Jesus. If you'd have been here, you could have fixed him, but you weren't here. I don't know what you were doing. You were messing around in Bethany. And he did. He when the news got to him in Bethany, which is like, 20 miles away, that Lazarus was sick unto death. He could have gotten there before he died, but he wanted the miracle to be better than a healing. He wanted the miracle to be a resurrection, so he fooled around for a couple of days to make sure Lazarus was dead and buried. And then he went and he healed him. And so he responds to each of these sisters in a radically different way. To Martha, she said, it's your fault, you shouldn't have been here. He responds with truth. He says to her, listen, I am the resurrection and the life. I hold Lazarus' dead body in my hands. I can bring him to life. I am the fountain of life. So chill out. I'll take care of him. To Mary, he doesn't say anything at all. You know what he does? He just cries with her. Sits down beside her and starts crying, weeping. And by the way, if you're a counselor, or you maybe not self-proclaimed, but you're finding, excuse me, you find yourself in a counseling situation, sometimes the best thing you can do is keep your big mouth shut and just cry with the one who's crying. Weep with the one who's weeping. Show empathy. Identify with their brokenheartedness. It goes a long way toward healing. And so we see in him perfect flexibility and wisdom in his interpersonal relationships. He never treats people except the way they need, and he always knows perfectly what that way is. And then another amazing feature of the life of Jesus was his total 100% perfect freedom. Freedom. For example, he was totally free of prejudice, and I don't think that anybody in this room could say that. We all have a little bit of prejudice, whether we recognize it or not. And I'm not just saying, you don't like black people. Maybe they don't like you. Maybe they got anti-white prejudice, which a lot of them do. He repeatedly showed his freedom from the rigidly stratified racial and gender and social barriers of the day by rubbing shoulders with all kinds of people, high and low, big and small. He did not avoid the rich and powerful, but he showed no need for their approval. Okay? He said, you want to be on my side? Okay, but I can get along without you. Although strongly committed to the truth of the Hebrew Scriptures, he demonstrated tremendous freedom in reinterpreting many of its laws and precepts. For example, he said, you have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not kill, and whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say to you, whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause will be in danger of the judgment. He's tightening up the 10 Commandments, right? He's making them more narrow, more difficult to follow. And then here's the one that guys don't like. You really don't like this. I'm going to watch your facial expression. You've heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. Okay, we're probably floating okay so far, but it gets worse. But I say unto you, I'm watching, whosoever looks upon, just looks, not touches, but looks upon a woman to lust after her, has committed adultery with her already in his heart. You don't like that, do you? You're going down 306 or 2673 branches off, and that's where the little water bunnies walk across the road carrying and they got their little bitty string bikinis on. We had one guy who used to go to church here. He was working at the inner tube. And now the standard bathing suit is, the back is totally absent. And your whole backside is hanging out. He said, I couldn't handle it. He said, it was tearing up my mind. So he quit. He quit, couldn't handle it. It was the right thing. He says, if you just look at some little cutie and you imagine, oh, wow, about to get my hands on that. You've already sinned. That's not good. Not good. And he took it upon himself to change, to touch the unchangeable and the untouchable words of the sacred Torah, the law, as if he had written those words himself. That's the whole point. He did write those words himself. And then it seems that he was absolutely free. Well, first of all, from prejudice, and then he's totally free. He's free from fear. He's scared of nobody. He was constantly telling people, fear not, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the storm. Don't be afraid of death. Don't be afraid of life. And at the end of his life, when we see him beaten beyond recognition, bound and on trial, he seems to be the most free of all. And he confidently told Pontius Pilate that Pilate had no power to even touch him if it had not been given to him in the master plan of God. You couldn't mess my hair up if God didn't let you. And he was saying, in essence, Pontius Pilate, you got me tied up. You're threatening me with death, but you are so not in charge. You just don't know it yet. You are so not in charge. When he was on trial, was he in charge or was Pontius Pilate? Well, it's clear that Jesus was calling the shots from day one. Not them, not him. And in this age that values freedom more than anything else, Jesus Christ confronts us as the most liberated man who ever lived on this planet. End of sentence, period. Wow. And the exciting thing is that he is willing to share his freedom with us if we will just embrace him. Open the door and let him in. John 8:32, listen to this. You shall know the truth, or you can know the truth. The truth is out there. It's objective. It's not in your gut. It's not in an inexhaustible well that Deepak Chopra can tell you how to get into. You know, the mullahs can tell you, or the gurus. No, he said the truth is out there. The truth is objective. You can know the truth. And when you know it, it's going to set you free, and I am the truth. In John 14:6, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I'm the embodiment. You know me, you know truth. So if you've invited Christ into your life, you have the truth, and you potentially are free from anything and everything. And this brings us to the third of the strange and beautiful mysteries of Jesus' life. And this is the magnitude and the greatness of his claims as over against the humility and the tenderness of his character. What is surprising is not only that his claims were so self-centered, but that his character and his actions were so completely unself-centered. And that's a contradiction in anybody except him. We never see him pompous or offended or standing on his own dignity. He is never moody or quick-tempered. There is an unsurpassed moral and spiritual beauty about the character and the teachings of Christ. And people have been so impressed by him over the centuries that not only have they wondered who he is, they've wondered what he is. Who is this man? What is this man? And of all the great religions and moral teachers, only Jesus Christ made the repeated claim that he is the great God of time and eternity in human flesh. Nobody else made that claim. So what do we do with this claim? He claimed to be God. That's radical. That's far out. What do we do with it? The first and most common way to account for Jesus' life is to insist that he was a great teacher of spirituality and ethics and morality, but that, he was just another guy. He was an amazing guy, but he was just a guy. And the problem with this is the stubborn fact that he repeatedly claimed to be God. And see, I don't understand this Clausewitz, I can't remember his name. He's a Jewish, not a Messianic Jew, but a Jew, real Jew, a Jewish New Testament professor, Hebrew University in Jerusalem. I can't remember his name, Clausewitz or something like that. And he repeatedly has said, Jesus never claimed to be God. What New Testament are you reading, Bubba? What universe do you live in? My God. He repeatedly claimed to be God. Okay, the problem with this is, he said he was God over and over again. And if this claim was false, then he would not be a great teacher if he was confused about his own self-identity. I don't know if I'll tell you this or not, but I'm stupid enough to do it. A couple of nights ago, I've been having a lot of trouble sleeping. A lot of trouble. And a week ago today, last Sunday, I got through here at church. I was a little bit worn down, like I'm wearing out. Not over the whatever I've got, heebie-jeebies or whatever. And I went home. I don't take a nap. I can't nap. I did some stuff, talked on the phone all Sunday afternoon, came to prayer, went home, and I started reading. I thought, I'll read until I get sleepy. Well, I looked at the clock. It was 1 o'clock Monday morning. I was still wide awake, bright-eyed. So I'll read another hour. Well, I read it. I looked at the clock. It was 3 o'clock Monday morning. I kept reading, and then finally it was 6 o'clock. It got daylight. But I got confused. I think it was that night. I fell asleep about 6 o'clock in the evening, and I woke up and it was dark. And I didn't know if it was morning or night. And my phone does not say AM or PM. It just gives you the hour. I called my daughter at 12:30 at night, after midnight. Is it morning or daytime? She said, Daddy, are you okay? I said, no, I'm highly confused. Is it AM or PM? She said, Daddy, it's 12:30 in the morning. I said, thank you. So let's review his claims. He made multiple claims to be able to do what God alone has the authority to do. My daughter had the authority to tell me, Daddy, you're way off the beam. Go back to bed. He could do only what God could do. He claimed the authority to forgive sin. Who can do that? To give eternal life, to eliminate death, to be able to raise the dead, to be the embodiment of truth, to be the judge of men and nations, to receive divine worship. If you will recall, on the eve of his resurrection, eve of first Easter, he appeared in this upstairs room with his boys, and Thomas wasn't there. And they were convinced, after he did the beam me up Scotty routine. I wonder if there was any sound, any vibration when he materialized. If I were there, I would say, look, we're glad you're here, but could you just knock on the door like an ordinary person? We'll let you in. Give him a secret knock. Or say no, secret knock. Oh, that's Jesus, let him in. Quit materializing, like Scotty beamed you up. Where is Scotty? Scotty got beamed up. And so a week later, and Thomas, the first week when he wasn't there, Thomas said, I'm not gonna, you guys can't convince me. If I can't if I can't put my fingers in the nail holes in his wrists and put my hand in his side, I don't believe anything. I have facts. So the following week, Thomas was there and Jesus went, he appeared again. And he said, Thomas, he knew everything. He said, come here, boy, get over here. Put your fingers right here. Put your fingers right there, Scotty. Scotty didn't get beamed up.
Before we drop that off.
He put your fist right here in this hole in my side. And Thomas immediately recognized that he was the resurrected Christ. And he fell on his knees and said, my Lord and my God. And you remember what Jesus said. He said, oh no, man, don't worship me. I'm not God. I'm just a prophet. I'm just a teacher, right? Get up. No, don't worship me. No. He accepted divine worship, didn't he? And if he was not God, that was an act of utter blasphemy, right? Okay. And even his offhand statements continually assume his deity. He entered the temple and said that all the rules about observing the Sabbath are now off. They're canceled because the Lord of the Sabbath has come and he's changing things. He puts his knowledge on the level of divine knowledge. He claims to be morally impeccable. And there are also the direct claims. He says that to see him is to see God. He said that. You've seen me, you've seen the Father. Okay, take it for at face value. To know him is to know God. To receive him is to receive God himself. And he claimed to be the only way of access to God. And supremely, here's the kicker, here's the top of the line. He took upon himself, applied to himself, the sacred, unpronounceable name of God. The I am, in Greek, the ego eimi. I am, the Yahweh, claiming to be the Jehovah or the Yahweh who appeared to Moses, who wrote the Ten Commandments, who created the universe. He said, I'm the one who did it. I'm God, I'm Yahweh. Now hear this. Jesus could have been a deranged, religious lunatic, or an evil liar, or the incarnation of God. Liar, lunatic, Lord. Those are your options. But he could not have simply been a good teacher. That's what people say. I believe Jesus was a great teacher, but he couldn't have been God. No. A great teacher would not say the things he said if they were not true. And C.S. Lewis said that his statements concerning himself, if not true, are those of a megalomaniac compared with whom Adolf Hitler was the most sane and humble of men. Wow. Another possible way to do away with Jesus' claims to deity is to say that anyone who makes the megalomaniacal sounding claims that Jesus made would have to be either mentally ill, if he believed them. I mean, you're walking around here and you say, I'm God. What would you do to me? If next Sunday I would say, I have a big announcement to make. You have known me as your pastor. You have known me as the hottest guitar picker at Canyon. You've known me as somebody who can boogie on down on that Fender Strat. You've known me as a nice guy. You've known me as a scholar. But I've got to tell you something that you've never realized. I am God. Live with it. I am God. What would you do? That'd be the quickest way. If I want to get fired, I can't think of any quicker way than to bring it out. And I've only got one board member here today.
Yeah.
But that's all it would take. Bob House, and he's got arrest power. He locked me up, throw me in the Comal jail, and say, hold him for a psychiatric exam. He thinks he's God. You wouldn't believe it. Another possible way to do away with Jesus' claims to deity is to say that anybody who makes these kind of claims would have to be either mentally ill if he believed them, or an evil fraud, a fiend, if he knew they were not true and yet induced people to believe them. But few people over the years have been convinced by this argument. We need to understand that first century Jews were radically non-disposed to believe that any human being could ever be God. Eastern religions were pantheistic, Western religions were polytheistic, so a God-man would not be a big problem for any of them. But when the Jews spoke of God, they meant the eternal Creator who was infinitely exalted above everything else. And it had been burned into them, into their souls, that they should never ever worship any earthly thing, any human being. It permeated the Ten Commandments. So the last thing in the world that any Jew would ever think of was the idea of God becoming a human being. Okay, God manifest in the flesh. They never thought of that. They never would have. So when Jesus claimed to have the same name as Jehovah, he was making the most stupendous claim that they had ever heard. And it is not surprising that when they heard him say that, they immediately picked up big rocks and started throwing rocks at him, wanting to kill him. But others began to worship Jesus as God almost immediately after his death. Why? And how did it happen? How for thousands of years did the unthinkable become thinkable? What made them willing to give up? Think of what the Jews gave up when they followed Jesus. Their temple worship, their priesthood, their sacrificial system, their holy days, Passover, Feast of Trumpets, all of that. Their sacred, the Shabbat, the Sabbath, they gave it all up. And the first answer is that his life must have been exquisitely beautiful. We've already taken note of that. And we get a glimpse of this beauty in the four Gospels. And those who met him, listen to me. Four Gospels tell us this. Those who met him and listened to him were smitten by him. They were dumbfounded. They were amazed. They were overwhelmed. The high priest sent a bunch of his soldiers to arrest Jesus, and they came back, and he said, "Why did you arrest him?" They said, "We never heard anybody talk like this guy. We just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it." It's pretty hard to claim to be morally perfect and to be God in human flesh and then persuade people who actually know you to believe it. But Jesus did it. What a life he must have lived. And it's very hard to imagine that he was a liar or a lunatic. He didn't fit the profile. And then the second reason that the unthinkable became thinkable is the resurrection from the dead. And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 dozen, 6 dozen, 20 dozen reasons why we believe the resurrection. It's totally supportable. I don't care who you are, what you are, I don't care what kind of problem you got. Jesus Christ is the answer to your problem. I'll close with this. The Bible gives Jesus hundreds of descriptive titles to show how he can touch any life. There's a church in San Antonio, a small church, and it's called the Jesus Name Church. The church is not big enough to have all the names of Jesus on it. Let me give you a few. He is named the King of Kings so that all the royalty will know who he is. He's called the Bread of Life so all the hungry will know. He's a great physician so all the doctors will know. He's the Prince of Peace so all of the depressed will know. He's the rock so all the unstable will know.